about it from your end. But I think it's really helpful always to be thinking about from the end of the people who are writing letters and also reviewing applications, right? So you really gauge it, you want to write for them, right? And so I've written a number of letters over the years. I work with faculty who are on the admissions committee to the VPD program here, so I kind of have a good sense of you know, what's good, what's important for getting a good letter recommendation, and then also what's, you know, thinking about what's they want in the application. So so I just want to convey that to you, give you that sense from our perspective. I think that's really helpful. So first question, let's say, how many of you have like a job outside of work? Okay. So let's say you're working at your job and some random person comes off the street and says, hey look, I'd really like to get a job here. Can you put a letter of put a good word in for me, right? You don't know this person at all, right? How many of you feel comfortable sticking your neck out for that person that you don't even know, right? Anyone, right? I mean, you don't know whether maybe they're amazing. They on the weekends they you know, work at a soup kitchen and they're like, you know, and help little old ladies cross the street, or they eat puppies for lunch. We don't know, right? We don't know. You have no idea. So you think like, so just think of that from the perspective of a letter writer, right? Like, do they even know you? Okay. And then another thought is like when I'm writing a letter of recommendation, what's the most important thing that I'm trying to convey to an admissions committee for a DPT program? What's the fundamental thing that they would like to hear from me? So just that's not rhetorical, but yeah. What do you think? Some things that are. What do you think? You can throw some ideas out, and then we can determine what we think is the most important. But what are some things that the admissions committee is going to want to hear in a letter of recommendation?
Work ethic.
Work ethic.
Responsible.
Responsible.
Organized.
Organized. Passionate. Dedication. Integrity. Ability to learn. I agree with all those. Now let's boil that down, right? Like all that and is boiling down to kind of one fundamental thing, right? Do I think you'd be a good PT? Right? That's what it's coming down to. Would I want you, if I'm injured, would I want you to treat me? Right? That may not be true for everyone. Would I want you to treat my children? That's what it's coming down to, is do I think you'd be a good physical therapist? And that encompasses a lot of traits. It encompasses academic traits because human body is incredibly complicated, right? And so you have to be able to absorb that information at a fast pace in PT school, and you have to be able to pass the board exam, so there's the academic component. And there's the human component, right? We all know that there's people out there who've got a 4.0 GPA, right, who would be terrible working with patients, right? There's a person component. So there's the academic and then the personal. Are they a good person? Do they work well with others, right? Are they kind, right? Do they have compassion, empathy, right? So these are all the things that boil down to, would they be a good PT? And so these are the things that we're trying to get across in our letters, okay? And so if I don't know, like, just think about this, so then if I don't know a student, right? Let's say a student's never asked a question in class, never come to me after class, never gone office hours, never communicated with me in any way, other than to a year later ask me for a letter of recommendation. Do I know anything about them? Answer any of those questions, those points that you threw out in terms of personality traits? No. I mean, I can convey, what I can convey, right, is that if I don't know them at all, is that this person, I verified this was a San Diego State University student. They existed in my class. They took my class. They got A in my class. These are all things I can confirm that are true on Earth, right? But beyond that, I don't know much, right? And so, and I don't know much beyond what the transcript says. Your transcript already tells them that you got an A in my class, right? And so what we're trying to do in this letter is go beyond the transcript. It's certainly possible a person got an A in my class, but I don't really, and I think probably that they you know, have ability to learn, right? Responsible, right? Those probably lend themselves towards getting an A in my class. But I don't really know, like, maybe they're just really good at memorizing things last minute. I don't know. So I can convey a lot more when I know enough about the student, that I've met them enough to see that, oh yeah, they can think about this at a really good level. When they're behind on, like they're not getting something, they come to me because they're responsible and they want to get it, right? So I'm getting a lot more information from them just by meeting with them, and that allows me then to write things beyond what's in the transcript. So that's just something really important to think about if you had to write a letter for someone. Well, if you you didn't know them very well, what would you write? There's not much content there. So, and in fact, I can write a much better letter for someone who got a B in my class, right? Who I know works really hard, pretty much gets the material, but maybe they had a lot, maybe they were just like, they were working a lot of hours and it took too many credits, and I realized that it probably would have gotten an A in my class if circumstances had been different. Or I know that they have a parent that's really sick and they've had to take on a lot of caregiving duties, and so that the B is reflective of the fact that they have a lot going on. Like if I know that about them, I can write a much better letter for that student that I know well, that I like, that I think is going to be a good PT, than the student I don't know that had an A. Right? And this is what the letters are for, is providing context. So I can, in understanding whether I think you'd be a good PT. And yes, getting an A in my class probably means that you have good critical thinking and ability to learn. But I just don't know, and I don't know how to stick my neck out for a person that I don't really know well enough. Okay. So that's just some things to think about. Really just think about it with perspective. And then related to that, I wanted to show you, because you probably have never seen this, but when I submit a letter of recommendation, I go through PTCAS often, and they ask me some questions about the applicants. So I want to show you what I have to say about them, okay? So you can get some more perspective. One is, how long have you known the applicant, right? That's not super important, I think, because sometimes I can know a student really well within a semester, and then I write the letter like 3 months later. So it could be 1 to 2 years or less than a year. But I am conveying how long I've known them. And then the next slide, please.
It lags for a second.
Oh, okay. Are we on 1 or 2?
We're on 2.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Yeah. And then, how well do you know the applicant? Right? Not at all. I mean, I wouldn't write a letter if I didn't know them at all, right? But minimally would be like I have some glimmer of them, moderately, very well, right? Usually you're looking at your professors to know you moderately or very well. Okay. And then I have to rate you on criteria. So all this is stuff that's happening in addition. Typically we'll write a letter that's about a page, saying what we know about you, why you think you'd be a good PT, but they also are specifically ask for certain criteria that we rank, and we'll get there. And while we're waiting, maybe one thing I'll just say is, we don't necessarily expect the professor to know you, all aspects of you, 12 dimensions of you, right? There's certain things that we maybe just don't tend to see. That, for example, if you're a volunteer in a PT clinic, right, they're going to see a different side of you than I will see on the academic side. They may have a better sense of your empathy. They may have a better sense of leadership, because to work a patient right through a set of exercises with authority that takes leadership. I may not get a chance to see much leadership when you come into office hours, right? Sometimes I do when I have a student that is particularly helpful at helping other people, and that's okay. Let me go through this, okay? So there's commitment to learning. Maybe you can't all see it very well, but commitment to learning, critical thinking, empathy, ethics, interpersonal skills, leadership, oral communication, professional demeanor, response to criticism, responsibility, stress management, team skills, time management, written communication. It's a lot, right? And the more the professor knows you, the more they can talk about these things. Now, I may not see all things. Like I said, leadership, I might just put not observed, because even if I know a student really well, they come to all my office hours, they just may come on. That's totally fine. It's totally fine that the other people who are writing your letters see the other dimensions of you. But a student that I don't know at all, right? Even if they got an A in my class, it's hard for me to get things like critical thinking, professional demeanor. Oh. Okay, so I'll talk about them. Okay. So time management. management, that's something I can see, right? People coming in to get help ahead of time. Stress management, sometimes I can see, right? Responsibility is a big one, right? I can see in class. Professional demeanor, response to criticism. A lot of class, especially my class, involves a lot of adjustment for students from the beginning of class to the end of the semester in terms of adjusting their study skills to be more based on getting skills in problem solving as opposed to anatomy where you need to know whatever bone is connected to whatever bone. And so I can see like response to criticism and how are you taking feedback from me about how you're studying in order to adjust. Oral communication, interpersonal skills, I can get a sense of that. Ethics, we hope that everyone just scores high on that. Critical thinking, commitment to learning. I can see that stuff better, right, when I know you than just when you got an A, right? If I don't know you got an A, I probably think you have commitment to learning, but it's just hard to tell, you know? Every once in a while you find someone that's just like brilliant and didn't take much effort to do well in the class. I don't know those things unless I know you. So just so when it comes back up, just think about those categories, right? And then think about, I can see some other letter writers that you're gonna have, or you see other ones. And combined, you kind of want to convey that picture of who you are, whether you be a good physical therapist. Okay. And so I'm gonna rate you on poor, below average, average, good, excellent. Excellent's usually like top 5%, good would be like top 10 or 15%. Average is average. Okay. That kind of thing. And then, the next thing is I'm going to have to basically give an overall picture. I'm going to upload my essay that I'm going to write, where I'm going to talk about things why I think a person would be a good PT. And some of it's going to be involving a lot of these skills. And also I'm going to have to give you an overall rating. I highly recommend this applicant, I recommend this applicant, right? And this is sort of like taking into account how good the person thinks you are, but also a combination of how well, right? How well they know you. And so if they think you're pretty good, but they don't know you very well, it's hard to give the highest recommendation just because, you know, like from my perspective, I'm thinking like if I write a good letter and I get them into, let's say, SDSU DPT, and then the DPT faculty that I'm friends with come to me later and are like, this person's like causing us all sorts of problems. So that's on me, right? And so I feel like, you know, responsibility to the colleagues that that are in the DPT programs to, you know, weigh this based on not only the quality but how well I know this. And the last slide is just me uploading a PDF of the essay. Okay. So that just kind of gives you a window into the process. And so different professors are going to have different philosophies. I particularly like to write my own letter because I know you and I feel like I take in what I know. Some professors are more likely to be okay with you writing a little bit of something for them and then they work off of that. Just depends. But I think overall the thought is get to know your professors. They can write you better letters that way. And then also it's a win-win, right? It's not just about getting the letters. It's the relationships you develop with your professors lead to, you know, better mentorship, better, you know, it's someone you can go to when you're thinking about, you know, applying to PT school and, you know, getting advice on that, getting advice on your career, getting advice what class might be helpful in the selective. You know, we want to get to know you and help you. It's not, you know, that's the fun part of our job, right? It's not just lecturing to 300 people at a time. That's kind of not too cool, right? It's getting to know individual students. So getting to know your professors, I think, pays dividends in a lot of ways. And then, right, I also appreciate the fact that there's a lot of DPT students in this in our department. Classes are big. So it's harder to get over that mental hump of getting to know your professor and coming to office hours when you know you're one of 300. Totally get that. But it is what it is in that the students who get over that hump can get better letters. So you know, try to push yourself if you're someone who, you know, would generally not get to know your professors. You know, try to make a commitment to saying, finding a professor that, you know, you really like their class, or you like their personality, and just you know, start going to their office hours. You know, doesn't have to be like every office hour, but just get to know them a little bit, right? So that it's an improvement. So that's my spiel. I just want to give you that perspective. Any questions? Happy to answer any questions. Yes.
What would you say to students who can't make their teacher's office hours because there's other classes during that?
Yeah, if you can't make teachers' office hours, I mean, there's talking to them after class, if they get there before class. There's, you know, if you can make an appointment with them. You know, I think we kind of do have a duty that if, given that we can only hold so many office hours, like every week, that if students can't make it because they have class, that we try to find time to meet with them. Summers are good times to meet with professors too, if because they're more free. But yeah, email them, try to set up time. Yeah, before class, after class, special the emails is totally fine. Yeah. Yes.
Is there a timeline to where you should ask a professor for a letter of rec?
Yeah. Well, I'm giving you my, like what I like. I generally like that a student asks me towards the end of the semester or after they've had the class, because it's hard to commit to something at the very beginning of the semester when I haven't really had much time. So I usually prefer like later in the semester or at the end of the semester, and then I usually like to be asked, yeah, like say it's right after the semester. I'd rather be asked like right after, and so I can give them a firm yes, I know you well enough, yes I don't, or no I don't. And even if you're going to take a gap year and it's going to be a year, ask them right after you've had them, right? Because you plant that seed that like, oh, I need to remember this person, okay? I want to write them a good letter, and then then you can even drop them a line like 6 months later, like, how we talked about writing this letter, just how you see how you're doing, that kind of thing. So you plant the seed, even if it's going to be a year till you need the letter, because if you wait that year, they might have had 400 students since then, and it's just harder to like put it all in your memory. But the students who ask me right ahead of time, I'm thinking, I'm planting that seed, and also I'm telling them when it would be helpful for me to write that letter. Like they asked me early, I'm thinking, oh well, you don't need it till 8 months from now, but it'd actually be easier for us to work on this in the summer when I'm less busy, because I get a lot of students ask me a lot in the fall. So if you ask me in January, I say let's wait till July, and then I have more time focusing on the summer. So you're helping them plan when it's best for them, planting the seed early, and then I think as opposed to waiting like a year and a half, and then they have to dig back, remember them, and even the students you get to know well, it's harder to remember them the more time goes on. So yeah, I think that's important. Yes.
I had a question for like transfer students that come from different college or area and that aren't as, I guess, established on campus as long as maybe like the students that have been here all 4 years. So do you have any like recommendations for how to like jump in with those relationships quicker than maybe people who have been here longer?
Yeah, I mean, though I think one thing about most of you are probably kinesiology students, I imagine. Yeah, is that you typically don't get the professors that are going to write you the letters until junior, senior year anyway.
Oh.
So like I don't see students until junior, senior year. So whether they came in as a transfer student or whether they were here all 4 years, it doesn't. To me, there's no difference. So there might be some like professors like Kelly Lane or someone who you might have early on where there might be a difference there. But I think in most cases, you're going to get to know your professor in the semester that you're taking them, and that most of us don't teach freshman and sophomore courses. Yeah. It's rare. I think it's rare to get to know a professor before you had them in the class, unless you're doing research with them.
Sweet. Thank you guys. Can we
Yeah.
get a round of applause?
Oh, can I say one thing? I could talk about this all day, but so yeah, if you have any more questions, let me know. And then also, I just want to say one thing about when you're writing the letters. When you're writing your essays, just think of it from the perspective. Again, this is all about thinking about who you're writing it for. And you spend all these hours writing this carefully crafted essay, right? And then it may be disheartening to find out. And how long do you think, when they're like at SDSU's FPT program, they get 400 applications. How long do you think they spend reading each essay? Yeah, maybe a few minutes, right? And so when you're writing your essays, you want the details to be there, right? Because they tend to read them fast, but then they get sucked in, right? If two things happen. One is terrible, and you want to be like, why is it so bad as I'm skimming it? Or it's amazing, and they want to know more. But if it's like a moderate essay, which probably won't help you or hurt you, they're going through pretty quickly, and so does it read quick? So when you have people who are proofreading it for you, maybe ask, you have one person who's like proofreading for like, did I forget a period? I's dotted, things like that. Grammar makes sense, but then you might have someone proofread it for, say, hey, can you read this in 2 minutes? Like get through as quickly as possible. What's your general impression? And then you start thinking about things like, are my topic sentences really clear, right? Does it flow really quickly, right? And so that it comes across positively when someone's going through it fast. So just think of it from that perspective. I think can be really helpful for having an essay that is crafted for, even though it took you many hours to write it, a person that may only read it 2 minutes. It's just kind of the nature of dealing with that many applications. So it's all about thinking about who you're writing for. Okay? All right. Best of luck with everything, and I see you in class some of you, and I think.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, y'all. This screen does not like us, clearly. That was a comment about essays because you just brought that up. So if you have a RWS teacher or a comm teacher or something that you really liked, shoot them an email when you're doing your essays. I had my RWS teacher help me with mine, and they do this a lot. They know what they should look like. They know what people are looking for also. So they're a really good resource to have, help you outline it or just get your thoughts and prove it. So. Okay, so, well, we'll get there. In terms of announcements, this week on March 14th at 10 to 2. Oh, it's good. Perfect. Okay. Snow is hosting a pie professor event. In terms of preference, we had our Nutrition 201. Dr. Mark Kern is going to be there. I put the times up, so if you wanted to throw a pie in his face, you can. And Kelly Lane's going to be there from 12 to 12:30. If you go, just take a little selfie, go ahead and send it into our email. It would be worth 0.5 points. And then additionally, just for this week, we've got the Student Life and Leadership March workshops. I put that photo up, but additionally here are all the times and dates. If you go ahead and go on our website at the link, we have the link embedded on our points list where you can click and register for those events. All right. Oh, and also, if you are a senior and you got a stole and or cord, you can come pick them up at the front. And so if you haven't paid, we can work that out up here. But perfect. All right. So today we're going to be talking about affording undergrad and grad school. And I just kind of wanted to begin with the preface that college is really expensive for everybody. And talking about money sometimes can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I feel like it is something that we should talk about because at the end of the day, we're all here and it is not cheap to be here. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that we all come from different backgrounds and finances look different for all of us. So maybe this applies to you, maybe it doesn't, but it is important to talk about. Okay. All right, so SDSU scholarships just for now. The scholarship portal has changed in the past few years if you are a senior, like us at the top. The scholarship portal is opened per semester. So the next one is going to be opening April 3rd, and it's going to go through August 25th. A tip that I got from the financial aid counselor is they have an early application period. I want to say it goes up until April 25th, is if you submit your scholarships before then, you're going to get them looked at first. So that's just a little bit of a pro tip. Like I said, apply early, and if you complete anything late or if something is incomplete before you submit it, it will not be accepted whatsoever. They do not take any late work. So the scholarship application, the way it works is you are gonna begin with an initial general application. I'll bring up a picture in a moment, but it just asks you a bunch of questions about yourself, what you were involved in here, your ethnicity, anything you did in high school, and it kind of acts as a way to match you to different external scholarships they'll have. Also, they have you fill out, I believe it's 4 or 5 short answer questions about yourself. Why did you pick SDSU? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Through filling that out, you automatically enter yourself in a ton of scholarships here. So I would say, if anything, just do that one. You'll automatically enroll yourself and have a chance at earning some of that free money. There's a ton of it. Not that many people do this, so it really increases your chances. After that, I recommend applying to external scholarships. We'll go ahead and pull the photos in a second when it decides to load. But it will recommend you based on some of the things you are interested in and some of the things you participated in. It'll recommend you to certain external scholarships, but sometimes it's off. Like, I know for me, one of the ones it recommended me to this year was like the Native Chinese Speaking Alliance scholarship. I was like, that doesn't apply to me at all. So I recommend doing a little bit of research, and some of them are really short. I know a few of them I applied to were only 500 words. So if you have a little bit of free time, it's a great way to make some money. Once those pictures load, we'll have a second to look at it. But besides that, external scholarships outside of SDSU, these are a little bit tricky. I don't know about you guys, but I have been scammed from clicking on a fake scholarship link on just Safari. So what I recommend doing is kind of checking in with people that you're close to, or organizations or jobs that you're associated with. For example, one of the scholarships I've gotten through the past year is actually through my dad's labor union. Very random, but I asked and they just happened to have something, and I've been lucky enough to be a recipient. I know I work through under AS, they have an AS employee scholarship. Really just kind of check in. Some organizations have inside scholarships for members. That's also another thing you can look at. These 2 photos are just pictures of what the scholarship portal is going to look like. On your left is the general application. It's a little bit small, but some of them are, I'm bilingual, I am a vocalist in an ensemble, I currently work 20 hours a week. A bunch of random things that will connect you to scholarships. All right. Once this one loads up, the next thing I wanted to say is it's really big. Follow your FAFSA. I know it's a hassle, and if you're like me, you sit on the phone with your parents for like 2 hours trying to figure it all out. But SDSU will randomly give out lots of money sometimes throughout the year. I know during the peak of COVID, if you filed your FAFSA, a lot of us randomly got emergency grants. They were up to $400, $500. Recently, and one that I randomly got was when the flooding was happening over winter break. My town was affected, so SDSU sent me a little bit of an emergency allotment of money. If you don't file for your FAFSA, you won't receive any of this. And even if you know that you aren't in the bracket to receive a Cal grant, which is one of the bigger grants that you can get, I still recommend filing just in case. You never know what you're going to get throughout the year.
Okay, cool. So student loans, it's like probably the most common way everyone pays for grad school specifically, because DT programs, it's really expensive. So there's 2 types of loans that are popular. It's subsidized and unsubsidized. Subsidized, it's only available for your undergrad, and it's when your interest does not grow until you graduate and you leave SDSU. Then unsubsidized, it doesn't, it is interest immediately. But I would say calculate your budget and your expenses along with your tuition and your housing expenses, because you don't want to take too much money, and then you're just gonna have to pay it all back. So just make sure you pay attention to that, kind of budget, plan it all out accordingly. And then the next one, if it loads, it's for DBT school as well, for scholarships. When you're picking your programs, do some research, because a lot of the programs offer scholarships. Like when you get accepted, they'll be like, oh, you qualify for a merit scholarship, or a diversity scholarship. So just pay attention to that. A couple examples when it loads is Boston and University of Colorado. They both do a lot of scholarships. I know Colorado had a merit, a diversity, and a rural scholarship, so there's a lot of options out there. And then the programs will also give out information about external scholarships as well, like at info sessions or your interviews or meetings with them or wherever. Ask them about it. They'll tell you. They understand that they want you to get as much help as possible. So just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask ever.
No. The worst they could say is no. So at
Yeah.
least you got yourself out there. Another service that we have at SDSU is ECRT, the Economic Crisis and Response Team. We're actually just across the hall. If you ever put in a financial situation where you don't really know what to do and are struggling a little bit, you can reach out to them and they will help you. I know one of the services they provide like goodie bags of toiletries. You can get an entire Dove thing of soap there. They really are really helpful and they're a resource that not that many students utilize. I went ahead and put their email up just in case if you ever are in a situation, please reach out to them. They will do anything they can to help you. Additionally, they host the AS Food Pantry, which is held in the student union. I lived in a house at 9 last year. We went to this every single week to help stock our fridge. They give away a lot of good groceries and I put the hours up. Additionally, there is a CalFresh program for college students. I got reached out to via the financial aid office during COVID and I'm on this program. It's fantastic. It helps me eat. College students get a special allotment of money per month and this card qualifies for any grocery store, Trader Joe's, Walmart, Target, Costco, all that, and it is really helpful if you're financially struggling. But these are really good places to reach out to, like I said, if you're in a situation or feeling food insecure, these are some resources on campus.
And the food pantry's happening literally like right now.
Yeah.
And after.
And once our next one loads, perfect. So jobs for undergrad, I highly recommend working on campus if you can. I've worked under associated students for my entire time here. I started at the Lanes and now I'm working at the ARC. Why? They understand that above all else, you are a student. I make my schedule every single week, basically. Cut out my classes, I cut out office hours, and I really tailor it exactly to my school schedule. Like I said, flexible hours. All of my coworkers are mostly college students, so you kind of are in that academic environment still while you're at work. There's a lot of room for growth and promotional opportunities, especially here. There's always time to take, a lot of the lead positions are always open. It comes with a raise, it comes with that leadership experience that looks really good on a resume for PT school. Like I had mentioned earlier, state hosts a lot of scholarship opportunities within their job departments, which is another opportunity for some money at the end of it. And yeah, I think it's great. I absolutely love working at the ARC. I'm gonna miss it. It's been the best job I've ever had in my life, and I highly recommend it. Where to find these? These are some images of how to find jobs under associated students or kind of within the school. If you look up, I put the website up there, but additionally if you look up associated students, SDC part-time jobs or full-time jobs, they will have a list of all the different departments which you're interested in, and you can apply directly through there. I know off the top of my head, the Mission Bay Aquatic Center, if you're here for the summer, they're hiring. You get to work down at the beach. One of my friends, she works and runs the jet skiing class. She loves it. Additionally, you can apply through Handshake. That's a service that we have through SDSU. You can also apply for these kinds of jobs on there. Once it goes up, we're gonna also talk about getting a job in grad school. It's a lot harder to hold a regular part-time job in grad school just because your course load is gonna be so heavy. A lot of programs don't recommend working at the same time just because they know that you are going to be a full-time student at that point, and a lot of statistically it shows that people with jobs, their grades tend to fall just because of that balance. So some job recommendations that we have, and additionally that programs have given to us, there's some on-campus jobs that allow you to study during shifts. I know at Grad Panel, Arlene from St. Augustine had mentioned some of our students worked in the library and they sit in our attendance and they sit and do a bunch of their homework. Work study is a good option. Programs that through the financial aid department are jobs that allow you to study during hours. The gym, like I said, we have really flexible hours at the ARC. We have a lot of grad students that work there the early mornings or the late nights when they can. You can also ask your financial aid counselor. They're always happy to help. I know they're also up on the 3rd floor of the union. Some other random side hustles that some of my friends in grad school have done, they babysit on the weekends, they dog sit. I have a friend who goes to the University of Nevada and she knits and she sells it on Etsy and that helps her pay for grad school. So,
Also, just random, I did like an info session for University of Miami and they like encourage their students to do like GAs, I think it's like a graduate assistant or like, it's like a TA for a class and you get paid. So like, it's all up to the program, maybe they have opportunities for you, so you just gotta talk to them.
And then the SSU Financial Aid Office, they have a virtual help desk that I honestly recommend because they don't have in-person counselors anymore. You go in, they have a computer set up where you'll speak to someone through Zoom. So it's practically the same thing, you just do it on your computer. But I went ahead and put up the hours and their website. On their website as well, they have a webinar series on how to file for FAFSA, the scholarship opportunities, how to apply, if you were interested in getting more details. Once it goes. And then just some final notes from us. We understand that everyone struggles financially from time to time. Please don't be afraid to reach out, whether that's to us, we can connect you to resources, or to the STC Financial Aid Office. Really affording a higher education, it's really hard. And there are resources for you if you need it and if you are struggling. I really like this note that we added in that you are investing in your future. Grad school is expensive, but PT Grind, who's the PT man from TikTok, always talks about it like it's a business investment. You are going to be investing into a future career that you're all